This story is meant to help you fall asleep. Let me tell you about a drawer I once opened. It wasn't remarkable, not large, not small, medium, I would say. It sat within a piece of furniture, maybe a nightstand, perhaps a desk, or something between the two, a hybrid, a desk nightstand. The drawer itself was beige or off-white, maybe more of a gentle cream, like warm milk with just a splash of tea in it. The sort of color that doesn't draw attention. In fact, I had walked past it for weeks before noticing it was there. The knob was round, metallic, slightly loose when I touched it. It wiggled just enough to let me know it was tired, but still willing to do its job. I turned it softly. The metal was cool, but not cold. A natural temperature, like room temperature water, entirely non-confrontational. It opened slowly. I opened it slowly, not because I was hesitant, but because the drawer made me slow. It had a sort of friction to it, silence, resistance, like it had secrets it wasn't quite ready to share. Inside the drawer, there were objects. Naturally, it would have been strange if there weren't. Let's start with the paper. There were papers, not many, 4, I believe, or possibly 5. The first sheet was folded, not crisply like origami. It had been folded hastily, creased at odd angles. The paper itself was thick, a heavy stock, maybe something meant for a resume or a wedding invitation. But there was ink, but there was no ink, no markings, just blank, textured potential. Beneath that was another sheet of paper, lined, college ruled, light blue lines with faint red margin. With a faint red margin, a single sentence written in black pen. Don't forget the... And then nothing. Nothing followed the ellipsis. I waited, but of course the paper offered no resolution. Next to the paper sat a pen, a blue one, or maybe it had been black. The ink simply faded with time. It was the kind of pen you might find at a bank counter tied down by a chain. Except this was free, liberated, slightly chewed at the cap, the kind of chew marks that suggest contemplation rather than hunger. There was a coin, a single coin, not centered, slightly tilted, resting at the left back corner of the drawer, as though it had quietly migrated there over time. It was a 10-cent piece, Australian, scratched on one side. I turned it over slowly, and examining the wear on the Queen's profile, she looked tired, or maybe I was projecting. What was I projecting? I placed the coin back exactly where I found the coin. To the right of the coin was a button, not a big one, not a small one either. 4 holes, navy blue, probably from a coat. It didn't match anything I own, yet it was mine now. I held it briefly, so briefly, brief enough to glimpse. It was smooth, it was cool, it was shiny, it was familiar in a way I couldn't explain, like deja vu, but tactile, not tactical, tactile. There was also a pen, not sharpened, still with its eraser intact. The eraser had no wear, suggesting it was never used and no one ever made a mistake, or it had simply never had been used. It was a quiet pencil, confident in its dormancy, and lint, yes, lint, the drawer's native species. It gathered mostly in the corners, gray but with tiny flecks of color, boring colors, like beige and black and sad green. I mean, what is sad green? What kind of color is that? Would it be dark? Would it be sad? As I explored further, I noticed a faint smell. Not strong, not unpleasant. A sort of dusty vanilla, like a forgotten birthday card in a storage box. It smelled like time, the smell of the air that hasn't been dusted, just having dust on it, sitting there, still, quiet, not moving, looking all gray, sitting there on the surface, not moving, giving the air a breath. As I explored further, there was a rubber band, slightly tangled. It was stretched, just not enough to suggest it had been once useful. What is useful and what is not useful? I pulled it gently. It resisted, then relaxed. So I let it go, sitting it quietly on the surface, where it was not moving or reacting, just being neutral, allowing itself to sit in the corner on the surface, doing nothing. There was no rubber band that I could find better than this one. It snapped softly against itself. I apologized. It didn't respond. In the back left corner, there was a piece of string, not twine, just string, frayed slightly at both ends. I tried to imagine what it had once tied. A parcel, written A-P-A-R-C-E-L. A bouquet, written A-B-R-O-U-Q-E-T. A bundle of something irrelevant, written A-B-U-N-D-L-E-O-F-S-O-M-E-T-H-I-N-G-I-R-R-E-L-E-V-A-N-T. I didn't know, but it seemed content. There was the parcel, bent, not dramatically, but imperfect. IMPERFECT. It leaned against the wall of the drawer as though talking to the wind, or as though taking a break. Then there was a paper clip, bent, not dramatically, but imperfect. It leaned against the wall of the drawer as though taking a break. I watched it for a while. It didn't move, neither did I. Near the front of the drawer was a sticker, half peeled, stuck to the drawer, looking straight, yellow in color, stuck to the drawer. Near the front of the drawer was that sticker, half peeled, yellow at the edges. It once said something, but now it said less. Just a TH and a curve of a letter that could have been anything at all. The sticker had no message left on its suggestion. It was sad, blank, settled. And you write settled, S-E-T-T-L-E-D, settled. Is that right? S-E-E? Oh no, it's S-E-T-T-L-E-D, settled. I shifted one of the papers beneath it. Beneath it, a receipt, faded. The ink was barely visible, possibly from a petrol station. The numbers were there, but the labels had vanished. What was $4.89? A gum? A car wash? I stared at it until the numbers stopped meaning anything. $4.89, $4.66, or was it $4.445? Why do we have 3 decimal points? Why does it say that? What does that even mean? Eventually, I found a key. Keys are very interesting, the way that they shine like metal does, with a glimmery, shimmery reflection against the sun. You let go of the key and you will find a door. But how many doors do you have with keys? Why does the key fit in the door? Does the door fit in the key? How many keys would you need for your doors? Eventually, I found a key. Not a dramatic one, but what could be a dramatic key? How would you define a dramatic key? Is it one of those huge keys that you carry with you on your back? Or is it the small key that sits in your pocket? Or is it one of those tiny keys that we used to have? Tiny keys for tiny doors? Or tiny doors for big keys? Who knows? Just a key, small, brass. To what? I didn't know. It had no tag, no companion, no explanation. It was a key of something forgotten, something yet to be discovered. What will you discover? What kind of key needs to be discovered? What kind of lock would have a key that needs to be discovered? What kinds of different things can you use a key for? Can you use a key for a door, for a window, for a lock, for a box, for a shoe? A shoe with a key? A key to unlock a shoe? Or is it maybe the shoe box that needs unlocking? How do you find the key and the shoe and the box? Where do they go? Do they have a similar spot? Have you ever looked for a key and a shoe box? I don't understand. I closed the drawer and waited, then opened it again. Everything was still there. It's very interesting when you close a drawer. It doesn't open back. It stays closed. You close a drawer and you close a door, but then the window opens and the window closes. That is very, very nice. Everything was still there. Still pens, still papers, still the loyal and patient lint. Still the coin, the key, the button, the quiet used pencil. Still the coin, STILLTHECOIN. The key, THEKEY. The button, THEBUTTON. The quiet, unused pencil, THEQUIUNUSEDPENCIL, pencil. And now we spell it all out in one time. Still Still the coin, still the key, the button, the quiet unused pencil. Still Still the coin, the key, the button, the quiet unused pencil. I examined the drawer's wood. There was a faint chip on the left hand side, about the size of a grain of rice. I touched it. It was rough, slightly rand, like a grey piece of pencil, like a snowflake dropping on the ground, slowly, methodically, turn after turn, until it lands on the ground, white, and then grey, and then black, depending on whether there was dust on the floor. How many times have you seen snow falling from the mountain or from the sky all the way down? The sky, when it falls from the sky, it is usually slow. It is methodical. It is slow and methodical from the clouds, because it's from the sky that the clouds come. Or is it from the water? Well, maybe the evaporation, or maybe the slow water vapor from the evaporation arrives and then falls. And when it falls, it makes a noise. Have you ever heard the noise from the snow that falls down from the mountain, and how it just does noise? How many times does the bouncy flake bounce on its way down from the sky to the ground? Does it bounce or does it flow? What and how? Well, I need to see, and I need to feel. It is very hard. If you want to count the snowflakes, do you even know where they start and where they end? How many meters do you have to look at? Do you count from the left to the right, or from the right to the left? Do you count them in lines of 3 or in oblique lines? Let us investigate a bit more of how to count snowflakes. I would start from the top, look at the sky, and count them, the ones that are on top of you. There are around 15 different ways to count the snow in the sky, and I will walk you through them one by one. The first way to count the clouds, but the snowflakes. The first way to count the snowflakes in the sky is to start by counting the first 15 right next to your face. Make sure you count them well, one after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. That's it. Good job. And then you continue on with the ones that are at the surface of your eye. And you keep on counting. Once you reach all of the ones on your eye's surface, you give them some time to fall to the ground. And then you move on to the next strategy, which is to count them from the top to the bottom. How many did you count? Do you start from the ones at the top of the sky and then make your way down? Or the other way around? Or should you buy some binoculars to watch all of the snowflakes and then decide which ones to start with? I do not know. Have you ever tried reading a book upside down, putting the words the other way around to see what it is that they say? It would be very interesting to see how you can read a sentence backwards for the words so that you can understand the meaning a little bit better. And it is very, very interesting. Business to disruption, major, other, any, building shut down. Do you know how to read the other way around? We can start with reading the other way around by looking at different things that make a salad while cooking the lettuce. Have you ever tried boiling lettuce? Or do you just work with it slowly? Do you start cutting it and then put it in the microwave for 5 minutes to see what will happen? Have you ever tried opening up a lettuce and writing something down on it? How many words were you able to write? Do you write them from top to bottom? Or do you have to turn the lettuce horizontally to work out how to write things on it? It is the age-old question. We don't want to let the lettuce die, do we? It is a sad lettuce. It works a lot in its life, and it doesn't need you to tell it what to do. I don't know what to tell a lettuce. Do you? It's a very special lettuce. It brings so much joy to the people because it's green. It's green like the leaves. The leaves that are green leave the green leaves on its green lettuce. You know what I mean when I talk about the exercise book that was made out of lettuce leaves. It brings so much writing. You write on it, but make sure that you don't pierce the book as you write, because there's nothing more annoying than a book with a pierced ink drop. I don't know if they call it an ink drop. It's when the pen pokes through the lettuce when you're trying to write. Or does that have to do with the snowflakes and the fact that we did not finish counting the strategies by which we will count the snowflakes? How many times do you want to count the snowflakes? We have cited 2. I still have 13 more ways of which you can count the snowflakes. The third way is to look oblique to the snowflakes from the side and count them one after another. Memorize the picture in front of you and start counting. Close your eyes and count the snowflakes in the darkness of your eyes. Does that make it easier to see, or does it make it more difficult? I do not know what stories to tell you, but I do know what stories not to tell you. The stories are vivid, but the telling is not. You will read through many books and understand what they mean. It is through reading and through inverse reading, like we talked about before, that you will learn a lot. Read it all the other way around and see how much sense it makes. A brief tour turns into a tour brief A. Know we of everything. I do not know anything until I know everything. It is very easy to look at the keyboard and to decide which letters to type. You type every letter according to your will. You start with Q and then W and then E and then R and then T and then Y. This is QWERTY. And then U and then I and then P and then O. Oh no. You start with Q and then W and then E and then R and then T and then Y and then U and then I and then O and then P and A and S and D and F and G and H and then J and K and L. Is that the keyboard, or is that the word that keys the board? The board of the key is a keyboard, but I don't know the difference. Do you? How settling it is to be reading and writing and looking at the keyboard as you type different letters and different words start coming out. Words that make no sense at all. And the silence of the words. With every word comes the silence with the words and the letters. You don't understand. You understand that you do understand what it is that you don't understand. Or shall we start with the third and fourth ways by which we count the snowflakes? There are 4 ways that you would use to count the snowflakes. Well, no, I had said 15 before. So let's go back to number 4. The 4th way, after the 3rd way, which, if you remember, was us closing our eyes and imagining the picture in front of us, and then counting the flakes in our mind. The 4th way to count the snowflakes is to look at the sky and observe with the corners of our eyes as the flakes fall. You count them from the corner of your eyes, one after another, one by one, until you reach the bottom of the pit. Over there is nothing. Well, I don't know why I'm talking about the pit when we are counting the snowflakes. The snowflakes are counted by looking at the corners of your eyes. And through the corners of your eyes, you will count one after another, until you reach all of the snowflakes. It will take a long time. You might be counting them in the sky, and then you would need to count them on the ground. But again, this is very different to the 3rd way of counting the snowflakes that we talked about before. Do you remember, or should I go through it? Well, we said that when you open your eyes in the 3rd strategy to count the snowflakes, you have to look at them in the sky and you have to count them one by one until you have counted them all. But don't forget to take a mental picture so that when you close your eyes, You can view them slowly. It is very important. It will help guide you to do that. Make sure that you do that so that the sticky note that is stuck on the drawer that we were talking about before is yellow and steady. But it's not that only. It is also about the way that you let your fingers trace the edge of the drawer that has the sticky note on it. It was smooth, except it was near the back right where the grain had lifted. It caught on my skin ever so slightly. Not enough to hurt, just enough to notice. I take a deep breath, then another. I look again at the paper clip, still tired. It is very interesting how we do paper clips, how we tie them together in little bundles, and then we send them off because they have nothing to do with the snowflakes. I love the third strategy of counting the snowflakes. It reminds me of the time when I counted the snowflakes in the 15 different ways that I will be describing. We've done 3 of them, and then number 4. Well, let's go on to number 5. In the 5th way of counting the snowflakes, you need to look into the sky and you need to count them again. The same way, looking at the sky, closing your eyes, and counting the snowflakes as they drop. You focus on a single section of the sky, and then you close your eyes, and you imagine how you're going to count them, one by one, in a gracious manner. You know what gracious manners look like. They are very kind. They are very kind. They don't know where the kite is. They do not find kites. The kites find them. The kites that are very kind, you know, when the wind blows the kite, a kite with a tail on it, a tail that is made for the wind to blow on the kite. It blows the kite. It blows it so that you can see the kite and the blowing. We need to describe the kite and how it blows. The kite flies high up in the sky. It has different things to it. There's the string, there's the kite, and it flies. It goes up into the sky and it flies. You have the string, you have the kite, depending on how many colors on the kite. You know, the kite that I saw had 25 different little boxes on it. Little squares, each of a different color. The first, and I will tell you what every color of each square was. Were there 25? Yes, that's right. There were 25 colors of squares of colors on the kite. On the top of the kite, there were 25 colored squares. And then down the bottom of the kite, there were another 25. And each had its own color. And now I am going to count these for you before we go back to counting the snowflakes. The first color on the top of the kite was yellow, and then the second color was green, and then the third color was gray, and then the fourth color was purple, and then the fifth color was gray again, and then the sixth color was green, And then the seventh color was blue. And then the eighth color was yellow. And then the ninth color was brown. And then the 10th color was black. And then the 11th color was white. And then the 12th color was purple. And then the 13th color was green. And then the 14th color was gray. And then the 15th color was white again. And then the 16th color was purple. And then the 17th color was green. And then the 18th color was black. And then the 19th color was white. And then the 20th color was orange. And then the 21st color was gray. And then the 22nd color was purple. And then the 23rd color was orange. And then the 24th color was gray. And then the 25th color was purple. And then there was the second side of the kite that also had colors. 25 of them, 25 squares, each square with its own color. The first one was green. The second square was black. The third square was orange. The fourth square was yellow. The fifth square was brown. The sixth square was blue. The seventh square was purple. The eighth square was green. The ninth square was yellow. The 10th square was purple. The 11th square was green. The 12th square was purple. The 13th square was blue. The 14th square was green. The 15th square was yellow. The 16th square was purple. The 17th square was gray. The 18th square was purple. The 19th square was green. The 20th square was green as well. The 21st square was blue. The 23rd square was green. Oh wait, did I miss a square? Let's start counting again. The first square on the other side was blue. The second square was green. The third square was purple. The fourth square was blue. The fifth square was green. The sixth square was purple. The seventh square was black. The eighth square was green. The ninth square was green. The 10th square was purple. The 11th square was blue. The 12th square was green. The 13th square was purple. The 14th square was green. The 15th square was purple. And then the first square was blue. Wait, did I make a mistake? Let's keep going. The 15th square was purple. The 12th square was green. And then they all went back to each other. And we all went back to normal. But again, I don't know how many squares there were. I have confused myself with the amount of squares. There were so many squares, 25 of them on each side. I could count them for you if you want again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Those are the squares on the first side. But then the squares on the second side were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 squares on each side of the kite. But then wait, that wasn't it. When we looked at the thread, the line that went down from the sky, from the kite, it had 50 squares on it. And all of those squares also looked bright and they had different colors. We are going to count those too and color them as well. The first color for the first square on the thread of the kite was blue. The second was purple. The third was green. The fourth was black. The fifth was orange. The sixth was purple. The seventh was gray. The eighth was green. The ninth was purple. The 10th was green. The 11th was purple. The 12th was white. The 13th was brown. The 14th was pink. The 15th was lilac. The 16th was green. The 17th was purple. The 18th was black. The 19th was magenta. The 20th was purple. The 21st was yellow. The 22nd was orange. The 23rd was purple. Why is there so much purple? And why are we counting the kite's thread and how many squares there were on that? I guess it's a design that is so beautiful, that is so elegant, that allows the kite to wave from side to side. We are going to continue, but we forgot where we were up to. Well, let's keep counting. The 10th square was purple. The 11th square was green. The 12th square was gray. The 13th square was green. The 14th square was yellow. The 15th square was green. The 16th square was purple. The 17th square was gray. The 18th square was green. The 19th square was purple. The 20th square was blue. The 21st square was purple. The 22nd square was green. The 24th square was purple. The 25th square was green. The 26th square was purple. The 27th square was white. The 27th square was green. The 28th square was purple. The 29th square was red. The 30th square was green. And then the 31st square was yellow. The 22nd square, or the 32nd square. Or should we start counting again? It was very, very interesting to look at this kite and to see its colors. It had beautiful colors, but it was not a kite. It was a kite with squares. Squares that were soft. Soft squares that allowed the kite to be a square of its own. How many squares does a kite have? Isn't it a square of its own? If we had 25 squares on a kite, and we were to count the squares in the squares, how many squares would these be? I don't know. It has beautiful colors though. It gives beautiful paper clips that design the square. You need 4 paper clips to do a square. How many paper clips and how many kites? How many paper clips with the kites? Nobody knows. It's a difficult question. It brings to mind all of those kites that fly. Are there elephants that fly next to the kites? Or will the flies that fly next to the kites with the elephants bring over the squares? I don't know. It's very interesting. It is very, very boring to look at the squares because there are numbers on them. But as you count them, you will see that you will love the numbers.